What's going on, guys? I decided to do quarters. I decided to get it in there. I watched somebody play yesterday, and he ran quarters, and it looked really good versus spread 2x2. So this is going to be an unedited video. We're just going to roll with this. If you need more detail, you need more information, please feel free to reach out to me and ask me about certain words that I won't be able to put the highlights, I won't be able to put the overlays on the screen. But if there's certain words or techniques you don't get because I'm going too fast, just let me know, or go back and watch the video from last year. If you go back to 2023 quarters versus spread 2x2, you can probably get a little more detail that way. But I want to get into routes a little sooner than later, okay? But just give me about 10 minutes of this, 10, 15 minutes, and we'll try to get through this formation. I do have to give you a quick overview of the responsibilities of each guy, but again, you're going to hear it again when we go through routes. So you don't have to memorize this, just sit back and listen, all right? So the outside corners, okay, they're what they're called mod players. Man over depth is the words that I use, meaning that if their number one receiver, and that's who they're keying first, goes over 10 yards, they will take him man-to-man. They will match him, okay? If the number one receiver goes under 10 yards, they would become a zone defender, looking to help with eyes on two, okay, and the quarterback. The safeties back here, we have our free safety and our strong safety. These two guys, all right, they're playing the opposite. They're playing 2-to-1, so they're keying the number twos, and if number two goes over 10 yards, they will match them. If they do not go over 10 yards, then they will look to help out potentially on number one. A lot of times the safeties will look to help out for post balls, curls, digs, things of that nature. In the Madden game, they don't do that very well. They kind of almost do nothing sometimes. Sometimes some good players do something well and they actually will help out, but it doesn't happen all the time. Then you have your two flat defenders, okay? Every defense has two flat defenders. We talked about that in cover 3. These guys are called quarter flats. So a quarter flat defender, it's similar to a seam flat defender, okay? And that they will take any route of number 2 that goes outside under 10 yards, okay? So any type of out-breaking route that's like a quick out, it could be a whip, it could be anything like that, all right? They will take that route to the flat. That's their main responsibility. If the route goes over 10 yards, they will actually let it go, okay? They won't carry it down the field. Why? Because these two safeties above will take the player, okay? They will now match them for them. And then when that happens, they would become zone defenders, and they will essentially become curl flat defenders, okay? Also, our 3 receiver hook player, who's in the middle of the defense, he's always going to say what you're going to hear me say, relate to 3. So wherever number 3 is, which right now is the running back in the backfield, he's going to move towards that direction, okay? He essentially is going to match the running back on any route, okay, that goes outside, as long as number 2 did the same thing. All right, so he's kind of reading 3-2. He's going to have to read if 3 goes out, is 2 going out as well? If he is, then I need to match 3. Okay, that's the rules. If for some reason there's a switch between 2 and 3, then they will match the new 3. Okay, and this is the guy in this defense that I would talk about using a lot as we go through the film, and I'll give you more tips and tricks on how we have to take them. But if 2 goes outside, anything outside, okay, and 3 goes outside, and I should have said vertical. So if he runs through the line of scrimmage and goes and runs a streak, you have to take him as well. So basically you're thinking, I have to match 3, I have to match the final 3, really no matter where he goes, and that's probably the best way to say it. Okay, now let's jump into some tape here. I'm on offense over here, defense here. Let me get off of this. We're just going to watch this versus cover. Watch this versus 4 verticals, okay? It'll be pretty simple, easy to see. I'm always going to do every play twice because the first time it's always a little messy. Let me just back up. All right, so again, 4 verticals. The key thing is to watch is that the corners and the safeties, you know, they're going to turn into man defenders here, and they're going to end up man turning a lot of times. So they may not actually see the ball thrown, but that's what happens there. Now, if I take a look at bigger view, all right, just looking at the 4 DBs, you see how you get 4 verticals. That's basically what I call routes over 10 yards are all in the vertical family. So you hear me say there's 2 go vertical. This is actually a streak, a go, a takeoff, whatever you want to call it, but it's in the vertical family. Once we get into some other routes, we will see it match up against corners and things like that, all right? So again, I'm going to talk about each route and the key points of each route. Let me make sure I have this playbook correct here. Give me 1 second here. All right, what I did was I kept it pretty simple. I kept these two formations here. I thought I had a regular spread formation. All right, so these formations I have right now with me are 2x2 gun spread formations that aren't necessarily with the tight end walked out. So I'm going to have to walk the tight end out in a couple plays. But let's take a look at this Y sail, okay? So just to show you again, I'm in quarters. I have match on. I'm just calling nickel over, cover 4 quarters, okay? So on the right-hand side of the screen, we should see that safety. He should be take this corner route. All right. He doesn't do a good job of it there, so we got to watch it again the second time. But that's one of the more important things that we have to do. Sorry about that. Okay, no more delays. Anyway, so here we go with the corner route. All right, corner route being run by the tight end, and he should have that safety there to play it. Now, as I watch this is already a little bit of an issue. I'm not sure exactly who this safety is, but he should be playing this with fairly ease. The route's coming to him, number 2. It's a route over 10 yards. Let me back up a little bit. All right, so we're keying this tight end right here. That safety should play him man-to-man. I'm not sure why he's bugging out right there, okay? So that might be something to worry about. Let's look over here. What does the slot receiver do? He runs something under 10 yards, okay? So now that safety sees him run something under 10 yards, he doesn't have to help with that. And essentially in the game, and especially on the left side of the field, I've noticed that this safety basically just kind of backs up and plays his quarter. He doesn't drive. He doesn't help out on digs, really, which he could in real life. The outside corner, this guy runs a dig route at 15 yards. He's going to match that, all right? So right now, number 3 is in the backfield. Let me just see. He runs to the flat, okay? So as soon as that happens, right, he becomes what we would say is the new number 2. All right, because if you look at the distribution of where he is compared to the tight end, he is now outside the tight end. So when that happens, the quarter flat defender can go match him. All right. Now, again, he's not going to probably do it with a whole lot of speed because he's kind of backing up, not quite sure. He's a little bit out of control here, that quarter flat defender, but he will match the new number 2 to the flat. And then here, our linebacker, our middle 3 receiver hook player, he's going to relate to 3, and then in this case, I know his new number 3 is the tight end. He doesn't have to worry about the tight end going down the field vertical, okay, because the safety's there. The only time he'd have to really worry about, and I kind of combined the rules or something from last year, he has to worry about if number 3 is the running back and he goes through the line of scrimmage and goes vertical against this formation, okay? So he can just zone off in the middle hook area, basically in the middle field, and help where needed, all right? Let's take another look at another play. All right, so we can go with, let's just go with curl combo. This would be an example where the 2 corners on the outside are basically going to have to play this route with not much help. I'm a little bit concerned that the flat defender here on the right-hand side of the screen, that linebacker is not going to the flat right now. He's playing with so much depth. So that's a little bit of a problem, okay? But on this play in general, you would see the 2 corners, all right? They are basically responsible for these curls because the route is over 10 yards. So they sit down. Now they're going to play on top of these routes, unlike last year. So last year, they kind of played more, they squatted, what I call squat. They kind of sat heavy and didn't necessarily care about getting beat over the top on a streak route. This year, they do actually read step out for the first couple steps, and then they actually do pedal and open up their hips, which kind of makes them vulnerable for this curl route. This is where in this defense, these two safeties back here, you would hope that they could actually, with no two vertical, that they can help drive this curl route. But in this game, they don't. They pretty much essentially just sit there and do nothing, okay? You can look at the middle linebacker here. He's getting the tight end that's running that buck route, okay? He's got it. That's his guy. He's good. If the tight end was to continue to go vertical down the field, that would be the safety's responsibility, all right? The nickel on the left side of the screen, 2 goes to the flat. He matches him, all right? So let me just quickly talk about something else. Let me just kind of make a little segue into this. If you do decide to play press man out of this defense, which you easily can by pressing everybody or by individually pressing people, all right? The corners are actually going to take their assignments and they're going to play Meg, okay, which means man everywhere he goes. So here's an example of a play. I'm just going to run this just to clear people out. The corners are going to take these outside receivers on these slants and they're going to stay with them when they're in press position, okay? So I just want to show you that so that if you actually do have really good corners and you feel confident about them, that they have a good matchup, you can press your corners and get them to take away all routes, which would be really good, obviously, versus the curl route that we just had. It might be good versus other routes down the line. The only time that this works is in spread 2x2 sets like this versus spread 2x2 sets like this. This is when you can get your corners to play like that. So, of course, I have like Sauce Gardner on the right-hand side. I can press him, right, and play Meg with him and have the other corner on the other side playing Mod. So if I do get curl routes and I feel like I'm losing on the curl routes and I want to get some more attention to it, I want my corners to pretty much shut that play down, you can do that. All right, let's go to a new play. All right, also, at the very end, I'll talk about run fits and just give you a heads up on what's going on with that. Again, I want to get through more coverage. So quarters against this route combination. So this is going to be one of the tougher ones for the linebackers. Let's see what happens. Again, I'm going to do it twice. The first time it's always a little bit icky. But pretty much we have a whole lot of, the tight end's running an under route. What's going to happen to him? Okay, and then we have a dig. Who's going to help with that? So let's take a look at this. Before I even get to the underneath coverage, this is something that we have to learn every year. What happens when number 2 runs a dig? How deep is his route? That route to me is deep enough that the safety should be taking it, but he's not taking it there, okay? Going back to looking at some of the film that I did early when we first started this thing and I was making videos in the live streams, the left side of screen safety always plays like zone first. He plays match like only if he has to. Compared to the right side of the screen, that safety plays a little bit more aggressive. So before I even get to the underneath coverage on this, I want to flip this play on offense. I want to watch the right safety. And I guarantee you, just without even doing this, is my first time doing it, that he's going to take this dig route and be aggressive on it. And he didn't. Okay, so that's new. That's new to kind of to this year. They're not taking the digs, even though it's over 10 yards. I'm not sure if it's programmed that way, but let's just keep it to that. Now, let's go back to what's going on underneath. All right, so this is where the game becomes a little bit tough for you as a user, okay? Is trying to make sure that you take away shallow routes, okay? So if you're the middle linebacker, you're the 3 receiver hook player on the screen, you're going to key to the right side of the screen because that's where your number 3 is, all right? The golden rule is generally if anybody comes from either side, okay, and runs any type of, let's just focus, actually, let me go back. Let's focus on the right side because that's where you're looking. If anybody on the right side of the screen, namely your tight end, okay, runs a shallow route that's going back to the left side of the screen, your mentality is to say, I'm going to take him, I'm going to wall that player, which means that I'm going to match him. Why? Because you don't know on the left side of the screen if that nickel is going to be there, all right? The nickel could be completely matching an out route of 2, right? So you have to basically say, all right, he could be gone, I'm going to match him. And that's the mentality you have to start. So anytime you use her, you say any crossing routes from that right side of the screen to the side of the screen that I'm looking at, because that's where the 3 receivers are. If they come across and they try to go to the weak side or to the opposite side, I have to take them. Now, in real life, you can get a call from your nickel. Your nickel will say to you, hey, I'm good, I'm free, Sky, because his guy never went to the flat. And if that was to happen, then now you can pass off that crossing route to your nickel, and your nickel will take them. And that's what happens here. So there's a little bit of double reading here. You have to look to the right side of the screen and find out, okay, is there a crossing route coming? First of all, you shouldn't be jumping up like this. I don't know why the linebacker's doing that. You should just be sinking back a little bit. And then, is there a crossing route coming? Yes, I'm thinking to match it. But don't come running downhill right away and try to cut him off. Just sit back a little bit, take another step, look at the left side of the screen, and see, what's number 2 doing? Is he running a crossing route, a shallow route? Is he running a dig route? Is he going deep? Any of those answers are yes, then you know the nickel will be there, so you can let it go. So if you were sitting back kind of like where the right inside linebacker is right now, you would see that number 2 is going up the field, and you can just pass off this crossing route, knowing that the nickel would fall off and take that route, all right? Then you can sit in the middle of the field and help out in this route, but again, it's almost a shame that you have to do that. I really would love if the actual safety was to grab that route, but that's okay, all right? That's a lot of information there, but crossing routes in general is the weakness of the defense. Teams that run double crossing routes makes it even harder, because underneath guys are trying to match their original read, and then they have to go and figure out something else. Now, let me just go back. I didn't say anything for the match reads for the nickel, and I apologize. So the quarter flat defenders, I'll talk about it in the next clip here. Let's go with, all right, this is pretty easy. Double outs, okay? But the quarter flat defenders, okay, they're keying 2 to 3. So obviously number 2 is their first read. That's the guy that's directly over this corner, over this nickel. And then number 2 for Mosley in the box is the tight end. So again, if he works out like he's about to do right now, then he will take him. All right, he will match any outbreaking routes. As we know, it seems like the linebacker is a little bit slow on the right-hand side. It looks like he's kind of like getting some depth and then matching late. So if you're playing on offense, that could be something, an easy little 5-yard out that you can throw to that side. But to the left side of the screen, it's a little bit tougher. At least it should be, you know, to throw that route, okay? So that's what's happening with them. Now, if number 2 was to run something vertical, then again, they become a zone defender, and they look to help out any shallow crossing routes coming back their way, okay? If number 2 goes inside, okay, then their eyes would go to the new number 3 and try to find out where he is. And if that happens, then he should be thinking about matching number 3 late. So we'll talk about that later. Let's watch the 3 receiver hook player. Okay, so there goes an example of what I would call a double move. But again, 2 works out, right? We saw that 2 worked out. So as long as 2 is outside, then now number 3, he knows, the middle linebacker knows that I have to buy number 3. I have to take him, okay? And he ends up running that angle route, he has to take him. If he ran a vertical seam route, he has to take him, okay? Let's just say for some weird reason he ran a flat route as well, you have to take him. So you buy that guy. As soon as you notice that 2 is out, you buy him. If 2 for some reason comes inside, then it'll be different. So I'm kind of teaching it from a higher level this year. Really, I do want you to see 2 routes. You know, you're reading 3 to 2, but you kind of have to have really good awareness of what number 2 is doing, and that takes a lot of reps, man. Like, it's easier for me to sit here and say what to do, but actually to do it just takes a lot of time. It's just actually trial and error on the field, okay? All right, let me take a look at slants, because double slants has always been a problem. So because we have our corners playing off, okay, they're going to let these slants go. And in real life, so let me go back to in real life, right? The corners, we know the rules. Anything under 10 yards, let it go. Zone your quarters. The safeties, one rule that's built in for them is if 2 goes short, 2 goes under, then you need to react to 1 and help out. But the rule I didn't talk about is actually day 1 teaching is you need to see run, pass, right? Because we didn't go into our run fits. So if it's run, you have to fit on the run. If it's pass, you go through your progression. Now, what type of pass is it? 3-step, 5-step, or more. If it's 3-step, And then you need to watch for slants, and that's pretty much their responsibilities. Their responsibilities in three-step is, because there's not going to be any three-step game that's ever going to get deep to them from number two. It's going to be a three-step game where two runs in or out quickly, because that's what you always do on three-step. But then now, if you get a slant of one, they need to be there to make the tackle. Okay, we're not trying to say you have to drive the slant on the outside and be able to make the play, but that's your responsibility, because usually there's nobody else that can help on these plays. Okay, so let me just take a look at this. I'll do it on the second try here. Let's look at the right side of the screen. I'm going to focus on that side. You see how there's a big gap there? The first player that can make that play is the free safety or the strong safety. Let me look at it again on the left-hand side. I want to see what the nickel does. Okay, really good job by the nickel. And I'm going to talk about that here right now. I'm actually shocked because this wasn't in the game last year. All right, so what you see what's happening here is another golden rule that I can make a whole nother video on. But the nickel has one of the hardest jobs in this defense outside of the three receiver hook player. And this is the reason why. In general, the nickel has the golden rule, all right? It can be the inside, it could be this guy, but usually it's the nickel. The nickel's golden rule is if two ever works inside, okay? So we would use this, let me go back on that real quick, apologize. The rule is if two's away and three's away, match two, okay? So the word away is a little bit tough here because it's a word that we don't use too often. But basically, if two works inside, okay, and three's away, meaning either by alignment, okay, or let's say he's to work if he was to be aligned if it was a 3-by-1 set, and we're kind of save that for later on, all right, match two. Now, let's just talk about this because we're talking about 2-by-2. So right now, you know, we talked about with the flat defenders, he has to key 3-2, all right, or 2-3. There really is no number three that's going to ever threaten the nickel because where is he aligned? On the right side of the screen, okay? So because of that, if two ever runs something shallow or something quick, and it's a quick game route like this too, the rule is actually for the nickel to match that, all right? At least to match him across the field until he's told that he doesn't need to. So that's something to think about. That was never in the game. I've actually talked about this for like 2 years. I'm surprised they actually put it in, I think. But really it's because, again, what's happening with this linebacker, technically? He's over here. He's focused on this side. He's going to the flat because two's going to the flat. He's brought up. There's a huge gap right here that a lot of times teams will try to take advantage of and throw a quick slant against quarters coverage. So anytime you're the nickel, all right, and number three is aligned on the opposite side of the center. He's away from you. That's what we say away. He's aligned on the right side of the center. He's on the other side of the formation. Technically, you really have to take him on any type of short, quick slant, okay? That's pretty much going to be your job, just to hang out in that window, okay? Knowing that your safety will end up driving that other outside slant, and this corner will have no work, and he'll sit back here looking for double moves, okay? So that's pretty much what happens there. That's something that if you ever want to use the nickel, I've heard people talk about that, you need to know where number three is. If number three is aligned away from you, then you have to buy number two on slants or any type of in-breaking routes, at least for the first couple steps. And if you see, that's what the nickel does. He buys them for the first couple steps, takes away that window. So if I wanted to like pump a slant in here real quick, it's going to be contested, right? The nickel's not going to just say, oh, two's inside, let me go to the curl. No, he's going to squeeze with that. So that's a little bit different. Just want to talk about that. I'm surprised they put that in the game. It looks like the safeties are kind of driving a little bit better on the outside slants, but not by much. All right, let's see here. Corner strike, I don't see that being a big issue. Let's go. I'm going to leave the boot play out. Let's go to Y cross for now. I know the tight end is in line, but it doesn't change if I actually did move the tight end and I moved him out. Okay, but by him being right now, we're going to see that the safety is going to be in a tough spot to have to cover this deep vertical route. Let's see what happens. The tight end does get kind of hit. He doesn't cover him on the first try. This is practice mode. We all know how it works in practice mode. Let's do it again. All right, tight end's getting across the field and not getting picked up by the safety. All right, so this is something that when you guys play this, man, let's talk about this some more, because I do believe better safeties sometimes play it different. But let's just take a look at this, all right? All right, so he goes up. Now the safety, nope, we didn't take him there. Now the backside safety had no work, but I'm kind of shocked that this guy's getting wide open. Let's just take a look at the rest of the routes. They're pretty simple. All right, here's an example, by the way. I was talking about 3 for the nickel. So the nickel has now number 2 is the slot receiver and number 3 is the running back. So in this case, if 2 was to work inside, he doesn't have to take number 2 inside. Or 2's away, he doesn't have to necessarily take him. Because there's a 3 to his side, and who else is there with you? The 3 receiver hook player. So he will take the new number 2, he would take that old number 2, and you would take new number 3 if he comes to the flat. So you have that extra help, so you don't have to worry about it. But who is in the new bind? Now this linebacker. So if 2 was to work something short and inside like a slant, because his number 3 is on the other side of the quarterback, he has to take it. Advanced level stuff, man. I'm telling you right now, that you guys are learning stuff that honestly $1 million players learn, and it takes them a year or 2 to learn. Like, that's some extra level stuff right there. That's the price of admission for real. So anyway, let's just keep going. We get a route here where now you see the nickel. 2 goes away from him. He doesn't have to really say it. He's pretty much like, okay, cool. I know I have a 3 receiver hook player. I'll look for a new number 2. But if he ever does come back out like this on this zig route, the quarter flat defender will take him, okay? You have to buy that. So that's a tough play for him, but that's the way it is, all right? Everything else here is pretty solid. The corners are just going to play the vertical route on the left, and then on the right, we got the corner just playing the dig route. The running back ended up staying in block there. It made life a little bit easier for everybody. All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, this shake halfback corner. This could be a little bit of a beater. I would think that the nickel would take this corner route. Let's see what happens. Yeah, he takes him late, but the corners are getting, he's getting on him a little bit. This is a little bit of a Madden play. I've actually never really seen people run this play. I'm shocked they still have this in the game. But that's a little bit of a Madden play. We all know it. All right. That's the nickels guy. But what happens is he's getting caught up with number 2 going vertical, and he's also doing a double move, so it kind of slows him down. You see it get hands on him, so that kind of screws him up. But basically, he becomes, again, 2 works vertical, he becomes a curl defender, and anybody else that comes to the flat next, he has to take. And that's his responsibility. This post is getting eaten up right here by the safety and the corner. That's not bad. The ball was thrown. I think that's why the safety came out of his break. Over here, 2 goes to the flat. So the linebacker should take this guy. I'm a little bit really turned off by the way Mosley is not respecting this guy over here. This is just a flat route, and if the flat goes out and goes up late, just like in 3 seam, you buy him, you take him. That's your guy. So I don't know about that. That looks like a little bit of a bug problem right there. I don't like the way they're playing the linebacker. The way his technique is being played with being a quarter flat defender. All right, so let's get to under center, and let's just take a look at this one, and I might just kind of create some problems, and let me just kind of end it there for now. All right, so we got a zig on the left-hand side. That nickel should take this guy late, but he should take him. The dig is going to be taken by the corner. I talked about this in my man-to-man video because that's what he's ended up. That's pretty much what he's doing after 10 yards. He's going to match him. That route in this game is open this year. Digs are there. As long as they get enough depth, it's really hard for anybody to cover them. The outside, the safety on the right-hand side of the screen should have this out route. He's not taking it. The linebacker took it. Let's take a look at this. So with the way the inside linebacker is playing, the quarter flat defender on the right, he's getting depth to start. It almost makes us feel like he's playing just like a deep zone. Like he's playing a curl flat, basically. A little bit more curl heavy. But he's getting in this window and not the safety. And last year, the safety would grab this. All right. Let me just say this. Quarters is one of the hardest defenses to teach because a lot of different people have different rules, and a lot of these rules are based off of plays that they see. So let me just get back onto the field here just to show you something. The safeties that I coached when I was with the Broncos, they had different teachings from different coaches, right? I came from the Rex Ryan school before that, and our safeties were always aggressive, like basically jumping the hell out of routes. Anything that's this confusion, jump it. So that was always my mentality as a safeties coach, okay? And even when I played the position, kind of it was taught differently, but jump it, right? However, there are some safeties coaches and some DB coaches that kind of play it a little bit different. They want their corners to be the aggressor, to jump on the intermediate routes, and they kind of want the safeties to always protect for deep bombs, post balls, things like that, and not to jump number 2. What does that do? It puts stress on your linebackers and your underneath defenders, your second level defenders, that they have to kind of get in these windows. So if these two safeties are not going to be aggressive and not jump dig routes by number 2 or out routes by number 2 that are over 10 yards, that are kind of in that fringy 10, 12, 13 range, and they're just going to play back so that they can protect for these guys, you better have really good corners who can obviously make plays on the ball when they're thrown in the intermediate zones, even though they're out of position. And you're going to have potentially really good linebackers as well to kind of like make the right decision to help out on those intermediate routes. So it's kind of interesting how it's programmed a little bit different based off of what I've seen. Now, again, I'm not even 100% sure these are the two best safeties. Amos is solid. I don't know anything about Whitehead, but just understand that these guys aren't playing that super aggressive. So saying all that to say, you might want to press these corners. You might want to press your nickel, but definitely your corners, because these guys are going to be more passive versus the pass, and your corners, let them just play hardcore meg coverage on number 1, all right, and then play ball from there. I think you'll be okay. Now, from a run fit standpoint, this is the last part. Okay, these safeties, you see how their lines are going inside the defensive ends. All right, they're actually what we just call it quarter, just kind of like fit where needed. We call it a read fit. Okay, so all they're doing technically is reading the edge man on the line of scrimmage, which right now is not the edge man. They're reading the edge player on defense. If they stay outside, then they will fit inside of them. Pretty much so, okay? If there's a play where these guys get reached or somebody kind of gets outside of them, then they will fit where needed and they will go to the outside. So their run fits will look like this. They'll be flat foot and they'll come straight down, okay? Some guys might even come down at a slight angle like this. And then if for some reason the force player here, in this case I know the nickel's involved, but in the way I taught it, the nickels weren't really that important unless a certain run plays. But in general, our nickels were more man determined. If for some reason the ball bounces to the outside, then I'm not going to fit in here. I'm going to see that. I'm going to come here and I'm going to run what I call a banana, and I'm going to run outside and fit where needed. Now in the game, I'm not 100% sure how these guys are playing. They probably get caught up in here and they sit down in there. Like if versus a stretch play, they might just be fitting the inside gaps no matter what, okay? And the only guys that can stop a stretch play here would be this edge defender, this force defender over here, okay? And then potentially this one or this player out there. I'm not 100% sure. But in general, your safeties are run fitting on interior run plays, and they are helping out and read fitting on plays that go outside. So that's the good thing about running quarters, is that you do have extra players. I never like calling a 9-man front. I hate saying that there's 9 guys in the run fit. I used to use words like 8.5 or 7.5. It's kind of like good safeties are going to make you right. If they have good eyes in real life, I can go through their keys and reads in another video. But in the Madden game, it's kind of up in the air. I'm not sure if quarters is really the best run fit defense. I kind of like cover 3 better. It's more sound to me. Anytime you have 2 players who are read fitting, they can make the wrong read and end up giving up a touchdown. So just understand that. Maybe we could do a video again. Everybody's asking me about run fits, and this is the year to probably do it. Once I get my games in, I'm trying to play some games right now this week, and my league games start. I'll be able to definitely sit down with you guys and go over run fits and how they fit up against. Once I know what the top runs are. All right. So let me see if there's anything else I missed. So again, this is spread 2x2. All right, we're not talking about formations where it's a cut split, nasty split, the receiver's in tight. We're not talking about using nickel quarters versus that. We're just talking about using it versus spread 2x2. And when I say spread, it can also be like this, where the tight end is walked out. Let me just show it to you. I didn't have it in this playbook for some reason. That's my fault. But we could do it where if the tight end was walked out of the box, college style. When I say out of the box, he's walked off, not in line. He's out here like a wide receiver, like a slot receiver, okay? You can still run quarters versus this. The next video I'm going to do, because this is really about pass, I do want to just shore up the run fits with this. So I am going to talk a little bit about run fits when it comes to especially gun run. It's a little bit harder because I do want you guys to understand that if you do get for certain formations, and the back, let's just say, is to the whatever. Let's just save it for another video. Like I said, I'm not editing this video. Sorry about that little pause in the video. That won't happen again. But hopefully you guys take this video and learn something from it as a good intro, and feel confident that you can probably run this against people right now in Madden. Add it to your defense. You can start out in quarters, right? And then you can like audible down to 3-seam, or you can start out in 3-seam and audible back to quarters, kind of keep people off kilter a little bit and go from there. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later, man. Peace.